Alexander Isak has made it clear he will not kick a ball for Newcastle United again. David Ornstein reveals the truth behind this transfer saga and how early on in 2025 Isak asked to leave. This is not based on Liverpool turning his head in the last few weeks and offering him big money. This has been a long-standing desire. We're talking Eze, Arsenal's top target remaining in this window, but Spurs are back in the race, ready to hijack and ready to sign the player. Yesterday, Fabrice Hawkins stated that both Man United and Chelsea were active and were involved in talks for Gigi Donnarumma. This morning, it appears Chelsea are no longer in those conversations and are not active. It is still a difficult deal for Manchester United, but we're talking more. Plus, club-to-club talks between Chelsea and Manchester United for Alejandro Garnacho after his very explosive comments, his very explosive update yesterday about not kicking a ball if Man United don't get this sale done. We're going to go into that and much, much more this morning on the Done Deal Show, but hit that like button right now. Get yourself subscribing. Very important to like and to subscribe, but more importantly, that bell notification button. This is the Done Deal Show. Let's do it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I hope you're all doing very, very well this morning. I went to bed last night and I've woken up and it's carnage. It's carnage. Genuinely, I went to bed and I've woken up and it is nothing short of carnage. It's carnage. I didn't even spell Garnacho's name right in the title. I just noticed that and I'm updating it now. Oh, my word. It is absolute unadulterated carnage this morning. Make sure like buttons are hit. Make sure you are subscribing. I'm just sharing the links out there right now in our different group chats and stuff like that. But what a crazy night. What a crazy night. What a crazy morning. Loads going on. Loads being discussed. And look, we're going to jump into all of it with you guys. We want to know what you think, what you feel. We want to know your opinions on all of this because it's crazy right now. It is a madhouse right now in the transfer window. There's no doubt about that, literally whatsoever. I've seen all your comments coming through already, and they're making me laugh just reading them already. The fact that you're already kind of fighting with each other over these stories is kind of funny in a way. It's kind of funny in a way. Mike here says, Chelsea were never interested in Donnarumma. Why do you keep sharing this misinformation? I trust Fabrice Hawkins. Fabrice Hawkins is a very well-respected journalist. You may not be interested in him now, but I don't think Fabrice Hawkins is making up that you made an inquiry. My personal opinion is you made the inquiry along with Manchester United yesterday, and I think either he said, I've got my eyes set on another club. It could be Man United. It could be a club back in Italy. Or Donnarumma has said, well, this is what I would want in salary. It's above what Chelsea are willing to pay, and you were pulled away. But I trust Fabrice Hawkins when it comes to this news. I also trust the journalist today, not yesterday when it came out at sort of 3 PM. I'm talking about the journalists that right now are saying Chelsea are no longer active or are not active, because that's what Chelsea are going to push out if they can't get the deal done. And by the way, Man United would do the same thing. Man United have also said something similar today and sort of quoted the done. I saw everyone was going, "Oh, sorry, but Laurie Whitwell said it's unlikely to happen." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but look what Laurie Whitwell has said, and this is all due respect. It's a lot of at the moments and expecteds and as of right nows in those conversations, and it's true. Donnarumma to Man United won't happen unless United can find an exit for Onana. That has been well documented all summer. But I trust Fabrice Hawkins. If you don't trust Fabrice Hawkins, Mike, I respect that, bro, and we can agree to disagree. But I don't believe at all that Fabrice Hawkins is a liar. I don't think he would make that up. And you know how I just don't think he is. It's as simple and as straightforward as that for me. Terry, could Donnarumma to Man United happen? Yes, it could. It absolutely could happen. And yes, I totally and utterly understand that there is the Laurie Whitwell report. And Laurie Whitwell has said that a move by Man United for Donnarumma is not expected to materialize. It's obviously a really catchy statement, but when you actually start going through more what he said, it's not expected. It's as of right now, it's only not expected because United might not be able to find a buyer for Onana, and that kind of marries up with a lot of what Ben Jacobs has told us this summer, that it's either going to be Donnarumma, it's either going to be Onana gone and a new number one, or a young number two who would be coming in to challenge Onana. That's still the case. But when it comes to Donnarumma, what Man United are briefing is that it's unlikely to materialize as of right now. But what we also know is that Man United have held talks with the player, confirmed by Fabrice Hawkins. We know, confirmed by Jan Fjortoft, that Manchester United have made these inquiries. We wouldn't be making the inquiries if there was no chance of this happening. It all depends on the way in which you want to view this. And you may think no chance, it's over, Terry, and I respect that. I believe there is a chance in this. And what will happen if suddenly Man United find a buyer for Onana and Donnarumma commits, you'll then see a change from certain journalists. They'll say, well, I didn't say it couldn't happen. I just said it wasn't expected unless Onana finds a new club. If we find Onana a new club, then it will all sort of fall into place. So, yeah, that's my kind of view on it. That's my opinion on it. It hasn't really changed in the last few days. As I've already said, when it comes to French-based players, Fabrice Hawkins is absolutely number one in my personal opinion. I do respect the other journalists, though, and it does appear that Chelsea are no longer looking, which is music to my ears, because I said it yesterday. I don't want to go head-to-head with Chelsea, because if Man United and Chelsea were fighting it out for a player, they would beat us. They would beat us 110% every day of the week. 110%. So I'm glad that they have pulled out after their inquiry, as confirmed by Fabrice Hawkins yesterday. The other big story today, and I want to spend a little bit of time on this now, the Alexander Isak bomber that dropped this morning, which I just think it's so intriguing to me. It's such an intriguing deal at every single level. It really, really is. Just looking at this now, because let's go through it in a little bit more detail. So David Ornstein's obviously put this update out this morning that Alexander Isak, and I'll read it to you now, is adamant he will not play for Newcastle again. Why is this update significant? Because, again, yesterday, the Newcastle media was pushing this. Well, it looks like he's going to stay. There's talk of him reintegrating. There's talk of a new deal. He's open to it. Completely opposite. Complete and utter opposite now coming out from the camp of Alexander Isak. They are saying, they are adamant that he will not be kicking a ball again. He says, even if the window closes without the exit, his Newcastle career is over. No wish to reintegrate. So right now, Isak is saying, I just won't play. I just won't kick a ball. I just won't play. I don't want to be there. Now, for me, this is huge. And people might think this is unprofessional of him. And I understand why people think that. Nobody would like to see one of their players behave in that way, especially a player they love and they're affectionate about. But it's important to read more of the article. So it says here, the information... Hang on a sec. So it goes... Just go back down to that. Okay, here, yeah. It says... Isak's perspective is that after being informed last summer that a new contract would not yet be offered to him. So last summer, he wanted a new deal at Newcastle, and they didn't offer him one. He says because Newcastle needed to comply with football financial rules, and Isak already having a lucrative deal until 2028. Lucrative, 120,000 a week for what Newcastle fans were saying is the best striker in the world is atrocious. He made it clear it would be his last campaign with the club. Now, this is what's very important here. This is what's very, very important. So it says here, let's read that again for anyone not listening. After being informed last summer that he was not getting a new deal and it would not be offered to him. Okay. He made it clear that that would be his last campaign with the club. Last summer, he told the club, I don't want to be here. after the end of this season. So again, what you have is you have these Newcastle journalists lying to tarnish his name, to damage Liverpool Football Club, and to push out utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Because there are no other major journalists that are corroborating this story. None. Not one. You see a transfer story. I'll tell you, Chelsea are no longer active in the deal for Donnarumma. You said yesterday he was. Well, I didn't say anything. Fabrice Hawkins has said that he is, and I guarantee you can find multiple other outlets in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks have spoken about Chelsea's interest, and they've had conversations. It won't just come from one place. If Fabrice Hawkins is the only man ever to have said it, I'll eat my hat. I bet you can find more people that can. It's only the Newcastle press that are putting out this notion that the player started pushing for the move in the last few weeks, and it's left Newcastle in a vulnerable position. It's a lie. It's a lie to tarnish his name. And I stood by Raheem Sterling when he was lied about for his move, and I'm going to do the same here for Alexander Isak because it's disgusting. He said some at Newcastle deny that this was expressed and believe the forward plan to discuss the situation, including the possibility of fresh terms. So Newcastle are denying this. And look, that shows you that is proper reporting. Right there from David Ornstein. Love him or loathe him, that is journalism. This is what I've been told by the players' side. Newcastle have said this. Balance. Read the articles that are against him. There is no fucking balance. I'm sorry if anyone's got kids watching. I know it's a holidays. I apologize. No balance. Disgrace. He says, last campaign, Isak helped them do Liverpool are yet to make another offer since their 110 million bid at the beginning of August was turned down. Newcastle stance may soften as a proposal, if a proposal closer to 150 million arrives, and they can still fill the void in the market. So absolutely, categorically, they're open to selling this player, but they do have to find replacements. That is one thing I stand on. But this comes out 12 or so hours after the absolute drivel that he's willing to reintegrate. He might sign a new deal. It's only Liverpool's interest and he's turning of his head in the last few weeks that's made him want to go. The problem is, did you know there's an irony in this? A lot of Newcastle fans have pushed this notion that it's the Fabrizios and the Ornsteins and the Jacobs, the journalists, that have made this situation turn toxic by pushing out fake news. I challenge that. I think why this has become toxic, at least from a Newcastle fan's perspective, is because of the drivel coming from the Newcastle-based media. The articles yesterday were so imbalanced. We have Ash that comes on here who's a Newcastle fan who just says none of it even makes sense what they're saying. They're the ones who are making this toxic. Do you know what they're trying to do? And there's an irony in all of this. Liverpool's media are the best at protecting their club, but they do it. They throw a few digs in at Man United with players that they tried to sign and whatever else, but they do it without, typically speaking, they do it without being toxic or nasty to rivals or opponents. They just control what's being said. Newcastle's media have tried to do this. Maybe they've tried to use the size of Liverpool to grow their own profiles. We've already seen some journalists in this saga try to grow off the back of someone like Mark Goldbridge. Maybe this has all just been about people trying to grow, but it's ended up blowing up in their face massively. But as we now know, the club say he's not for sale, but are exploring the market amid Liverpool's interest for the striker. Why would you be exploring the market if he's not for sale? That has never made... if that not for sale stance absolutely exists categorically, no matter what, you wouldn't be in the market looking for new players. But to reiterate, in case you are just tuning in now this morning, Alexander Isak is adamant that he will not play for Newcastle again, even if he stays. That is the word this morning from David Ornstein in relation to this big deal. Want your views, want your opinions on this right now in the comment section below, people. Patrick here says, deluded Newcastle fans think they are a big club because of the money. And Aston here says, I respect Keith and Craig Hope, but Luke Edwards' article was more like a fan crying, not a journalist writing an article. Now, listen, I agree with you. I respect them all as journalists, by and large. This doesn't lose it. Doesn't mean they're not right about certain elements or they won't get things right in future. But this whole thing, they have just told one side of the story. And the problem is with this type of situation, if you had a situation, maybe you had two mates or you've got friends in your lives who are a couple, and one of them comes to you and says, oh, we had a fight, we had an argument, we had a disagreement, and this is what happened. And you think, oh, he or she was well out of order. Then you hear the other side of the story and you go, oh, that's kind of different to what I was told. There are similarities. You'll find the bits that match both stories are probably the absolute truth. And then there is versions. And then there is, well, we're going to tell this side of the story to make us look better. And maybe, let's be fair, I'll be fair here. Maybe Isak didn't say last summer it was his last campaign. Maybe it was Christmas. Maybe it was after the Carabao Cup. Maybe it was April or May. But I definitely believe that he said that. I absolutely believe that he has said that at some point last year. This wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction to Liverpool's interest. Liverpool's interest has also been public since April. So 4 months this has been public. Newcastle have known about that at least. And normally by the time it goes public, it's already been happening behind closed doors for 2 or 3 months anyway. So no, I agree. It's just horrendous journalism by them. It really, really is. Well done for finally seeing the right wing media bias against Liverpool. Look, I've defended Liverpool on this deal because I will. I'll still stand by what I've said about other parts of the media where I often see Liverpool's transfers in pounds without add-ons, and I'll see Man United's in euros with add-ons, and I call that out as well. But this is one thing I would say. This is never a dig. This is never a dig at Liverpool. It's a dig at the media. The same as when there's a bad VAR call. I'm not digging out the team that benefited. I'm digging out the referees and the PGMOL. It's a very different circumstance here. There really, really is. And people have got to stop taking it personally when it isn't directly about them. If Sky Sports put out transfers up in dollars today and Liverpool's in pounds, I'm not angry at Liverpool Football Club. I'm not angry at all. Sean here says Newcastle banked on Liverpool not making the move, it seems. Potentially. Look, I actually think it's different to that. I think Newcastle truly believed that they'd get Ekitike or they'd get Wissa already. I think they fancied themselves to beat Man United to Sheshko. They fancied themselves getting Cunha. They fancied themselves getting Mbumo. That is what slowed this down. It is nothing to do with Liverpool. It's nothing to do with Alexander Isak's behavior. I believe the truth is Alexander Isak was told he'd be able to leave. I believe the truth is that Alexander Isak was promised he'd be able to go, that they would find replacements and let him go. What's happened is they haven't delivered on that promise. You know, it's a bit like this. Say KJ comes to me, and I use KJ because you will know him. This is hypothetical. This would never happen, but it's hypothetical. KJ says, Terry, I need 2 weeks off, a month off in August. Why? Well, me and my wife are going to go on a trip with friends. We're doing X, we're doing Y, we're doing Z. And I know it's a long time. And I know it's more than what I would normally ask off. But it's, you know, there's religious reasons because KJ is a very religious man. He won't mind me sharing that. We've got, you know, there's sort of a pilgrimage element to it. And there's a family and friends part. And it's something we both deeply want to do. If I said to him, look, KJ, I just can't have you off for a month. I can't do that because for X, Y, and Z reasons. But I go, right, you've given me 6 months notice. What I can do is between now and then, I will get somebody else in. So we'll bring someone in on sort of a contractual basis that will cover you in that period, and I'll get that done. If I keep failing to find someone or don't find someone or keep getting rejected by people or whatever it may be, whatever the reason is, if we get to a few weeks before KJ is meant to be going, and I'm like, KJ, I don't know if I can let you go. I've not been able to find anybody. I would expect KJ to be frustrated. It wasn't like he gave me a week's notice and it was a rush. I've had months to get this situation resolved, and I have practically promised I would get it done. And none of you, even Newcastle fans, would be on my side. Most of you would say, nah, it's bang out of order, man. You've got to let KJ go. You promised him that you would get cover. You committed to doing that. You haven't got it done. You can't, you know, break the promise. You can't destroy a dream and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him and his family. This is a disgrace. You would all call me out for that. People would be trying to cancel me. I'd be losing subscribers. People would be fuming with me if this all went public. Now, this is exactly how I view this situation. I know that there is a difference in it, but Newcastle haven't done a good enough job finding replacements. Newcastle have not done the right due diligence. Newcastle have gone after the wrong players. Newcastle have dwelled. The 10 days or so they spent trying to beat Man United to Sesko when it was so well documented that he only wanted Man United or they were the priority. It was crazy. It's crazy. They should have pivoted away straight away. You know, they had an opportunity when they went in for Ekitike to do the deal for Isak, and I still think they could have got Ekitike. I still think they could have turned around to Liverpool and said, look, we will do this deal for Isak, but they could have done a bit of a quick pro quo. They could have done something there, and they got it wrong. So I am not, as a football fan, I am not looking at Alexander Isak and saying that he's a disgrace, that it's an abomination, that it's wrong. I'm just not saying that. I don't believe that. In my personal view, they have done Alexander Isak dirty, in my personal opinion. I think they have done him dirty. They haven't done a good enough job. They just haven't. It's as simple and it's as straightforward as that. Woeful from them. Woeful from them. It really, really is. That being said, Newcastle are now also interested potentially in... sorry, I read something interesting there. Man United are also interested. Newcastle are currently interested in Rasmus Højlund. God, go on, please. Please. Bring me that bid. Bring me that bid. Can you imagine Rasmus Højlund to Newcastle? Here we go. Oh, that'd make my day. That'd make my day. I'd be happy for Rasmus. But can you imagine after Man United beating Newcastle to 3 of their major targets, they helped pay for some of it by buying Rasmus? Bring me 40 bar, mate. Bring me 40 bar. It's from the Athletic have said that he's one of the strikers they're looking at. Yeah. So it's fairly legit. Fairly legit. Fairly. Anyway. Look, we're gonna move on. We are gonna take your calls on this show today. By the way, if you haven't hit the like button yet, get that done, please. There's nowhere near enough likes on this stream. The like numbers are ridiculous. Let's get this stream liked, please. Let's get it up to 1,000. If you could do that for me, please, my people. Terry, can you explain the timing of his outburst? Why after Ekitike deal fell through, and why Liverpool didn't also make that offer with Isak being their dream target? It's a great point. What can I explain the timing of the outburst? So again, my view, having read all the different stories and articles, is Liverpool said, look, you know, we're willing to bid this. We're willing to bid around 120. Is that acceptable to you? Newcastle have put 2 fingers up to it and said no, and then gone all in for Ekitike. I think thinking we can get our main replacement, and then if Liverpool don't do anything, we've got both. I think they really believe that Newcastle's hierarchy. And then Ekitike's mind has been changed. Ekitike's mind is gone, I'm going Liverpool over Newcastle. And yes, they didn't make an official bid at that time, but Liverpool are a club that really don't like to make official bids unless they get things through. Why did they make the £110 million bid? I think they were chancing their arm at that point to go, okay, well, Newcastle will be becoming a little bit more desperate. Maybe we can help them by giving them a bit more cash. There's a bid. And I think Liverpool, they might not win this battle financially. I think Liverpool viewed the situation as, well, the player is now saying he won't kick a ball for you again. Let's see who blinks first here. Newcastle won 150 million. Anything under that is a win for Liverpool. If Liverpool end up getting him for 120, it ends up being what they offered you weeks ago when you were still leading the race for Ekitike. And it would demonstrate that Liverpool won this battle. So look, I look at it that way. You guys should have just accepted that money then. Should have accepted 120. You'd have got Ekitike. You'd have moved on to other targets. I think you'd be laughing, Kane. But really good challenge there, my friend. Really good question. I like that. Let's go to some other stories that have come out today. Now, this one's very, very interesting indeed, and there's a lot to go through here. So Paul O'Keefe started this news, but Fabrizio has now confirmed that Tottenham are back in talks for Eze. Tottenham are back in talks to sign Eze. This is now on and active. Now, Spurs pulled away from the Eze deal earlier on in the summer. Spurs pulled away from it. Spurs stopped looking at the player. This is all well documented, maybe 6 to 7 weeks ago. So Spurs are trying again for Eze whilst they work on the Savinho deal. So obviously, with Maddison being injured and Son now leaving, Savinho is the main target to play on the left, which is his preferred position. Eze is a separate deal. Signing Savinho will not stop Spurs' pursuit of Eze. Now, suddenly, Spurs, who have had, for me, a very average window, although Kudus is an amazing signing, suddenly they're moving towards Eze and they're moving towards Savinho. That changes the complexity of the window in its entirety. In its entirety. If Spurs are able to pull that off, what a window that would be. You can't deny it. You can't beat about the bush. That would be a phenomenal, an absolutely phenomenal summer transfer window for them. It really would. Kudus is an excellent signing as an example. I don't know much about the other sort of lesser signings. Obviously, they've got Paulinho on a loan fee. I know on a loan. I know he didn't have a great first game, but I do think he's a phenomenal player. They've got Young Tell that's come in and Danso that they bought last year. 145 million already spent. These two deals would send them well into the sort of 250 million mark of overall expenditure, but an excellent couple of players. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Eze to Tottenham isn't a game changer. I think they become a completely different level of team if they're able to do it. Some of you write some really weird things in the comment section. Terry, they have replaced Son and Madders with Savinho and Eze. They haven't improved. What are you talking about? I'm sorry. I'm going to call that bullshit. If Spurs land Eze and Savinho, they have improved. Eze is so much better than Maddison. Savinho, listen, Son in 2025 into the 2026 season is not the Son of 5 years ago. There's a reason that he's gone to the MLS now and isn't playing in Europe's top flight, because he's absolutely past his best. So in terms of what they had now, they're improving on it. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. But Sammy McBell has also come out this morning, and Sammy McBell has said that Eze is emerging as a player of serious interest for Tottenham. Says Arsenal have an interest in Eze, but the club are currently looking at moving players on. It remains to be seen whether Tottenham's interest in Eze results in Arsenal accelerating a move. But it has to. Arsenal must respond. Arsenal must go for this player now. Arsenal must. Arsenal absolutely, categorically, no bullshit, no BS, nothing, no hyperbole. They must. They cannot, in my opinion, allow this to happen. And I say that because Eze is such a top-class player. He is such a game changer. I understand that the Arsenal want to sell players, and they've got 4 or 5 deals that they're working on. They've got 4 or 5 deals that are motoring around that are close to, there's Trossard, but there's other ones, Reece Nelson, Zinchenko, Lokonga, a few others that they're sort of fairly close to moving on. And I know that in an ideal world, Arsenal would like to see the player go and then a new player come in. But I don't know if they've got that luxury anymore. I don't know if they've got that luxury. I think they've got to do something. And by the way, I'm going to update that graphic that's on the screen and move Tottenham's interest back up to high, because it is high now, again, from Tottenham in for Eze. But for me, Arsenal can't allow this to happen. It would be a phenomenal signing for Tottenham. It would be a top-class signing for Tottenham. It could be a transformative signing for Tottenham Hotspur. The levels, especially with the way I think Spurs are going to play football this year, they would attack more than Crystal Palace typically do, because they've got a better squad and team than Palace. But with Thomas Frank there would be a lot of transitional football, and he's just amazing at it. He's just amazing at that kind of football. He can play both for me, Eze, because of his overarching quality as a football player. This would just be phenomenal for Tottenham, but it would also be a little bit of a thumb in the eye. Because although, listen, Arsenal are still going to have a good season. I'm not one of these people that thinks if Arsenal don't do this, their campaign is over. But Eze could be the difference between a second place finish and getting over the line and winning the league. He could be the difference between an almost season, semi-finals and finals, or winning some trophies. The fact that the man's been so integral in winning Palace their first 2 trophies ever, I think there is something hugely significant in it, that's in this deal. But look, this would be absolutely top class, high level, fantastic business for Spurs. And that, listen, everyone knows what I think of the Kudus deal. I think that's phenomenal business. I think that's a top class player going into Spurs. Paulinho, I think, will add that grit. I know that I didn't watch his first game. I don't know what I was doing, but I wasn't around. I didn't watch that preseason game. And I know a lot of people have attacked it, saying he looked a bit dodgy. But I'm not going to write Paulinho off because of like a bad start in a preseason game against his old club. Sort of ironically, it's starting to turn into a very good window for Spurs, a team that I looked at a few weeks ago, and you're like, well, what are they going to do? They haven't moved on. They haven't pivoted. I know Savinha is still a confusing one because his stats weren't particularly great last year. Why are Man City willing to cash in so early on him? Someone said to me yesterday, Terry, if he plays on the left, you'll see a different player. And I trust the person who said that to me. So I'll at least give it the benefit of any doubt that's coming in. But Arsenal fans, what do you think? What do you feel? What's your views? What's your opinions on this? Let us know in the comment section below. Big up, Luke, for the super chat here, my friend. I appreciate that a lot. Reds, and encouraging everyone to get that like button here. Red Square says, Arsenal are done in the market with incomings. Well, if that's true, see, this is where, if it's true, then fair enough. You know, but I think it's a big mistake. I think it is a big and a huge mistake, a massive mistake for Arsenal to do that. Got to call it out. I've got to say, especially allowing Spurs to go and get him. Especially allowing Spurs to go and do it. Sometimes you've got to act now. Liverpool never unsettled Isak. Newcastle gave notice 2 weeks before the season ended. He told he could go. Hasn't been allowed to. What's he to do? Look, I look at it this way. A lot of people have said to me, Terry, why haven't you been going in on Alejandro Garnacho? We're going to move on to Garnacho in a minute before I start taking your calls. Why haven't I gone in on Garnacho? Because it would be hypocritical. It would be hypocritical of me because I've spoke so many times about how if Belieber forces a move out of Brighton and Man United land him, I'm celebrating that we've got him. I try my best to not do this in life, and I'm going to make these mistakes because I'm human. But when the Super League was announced, we were all angry. And then I sat there and realized, well, I'm going to do match reactions to it, aren't I? So I'm not calling it out. I called out all the journalists who were like, the World Cup shouldn't be in Qatar. Then they all flew out there, lived for a month in hotels paid for by the Qatari royal family. I saw them at parties paid for by the Qatari royal family. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you're also against it, and you're against this nation and against its royal family, but you're willing to eat their food and drink their drink and go to their parties and get free travel, free accommodation paid for by them. I'm sitting there like, nah, I can't do that. The same here. I'm not angry at what Isak's done. It's not my club. Maybe if it was, I'd be a little angrier. But also with what Garnacho said yesterday, and we will move into it in more detail, he's trying to get his move. If Belieber starts doing it tomorrow and it helps us land him, how many Man United fans are going to boo when he walks onto the pitch holding the shirt? No one. No one. So therefore, you are a hypocrite if you do it the other way. Equally, if you want to do that, I know if you're watching Lulu, might get annoyed. Fans like to behave that way. That's cool. Fans are allowed to behave that way. I'm just not going to reciprocate that. I'm not going to do it because it makes me feel a bit icky, if that makes sense. But that's just me. That's just my personal opinion. We're going to be taking, we'll put the link in the live chat. We're taking calls this morning on these stories. Before we move on and take your calls, obviously we're talking Arsenal, Spurs, Eze. We're talking about the Isak bomber that's been dropped this morning. We're talking Donnarumma as well. I stand on it. I don't care how many people get angry. I trust Fabrice Hawkins on this story. I do trust him. I think both clubs made an inquiry yesterday. I also don't think that Man United have got no chance in this, as been written this morning. I think we do. Moving on from that. Chelsea set up talks for Alejandro Garnacho. Club-to-club discussions with Man United are now well underway. Many believe that Garnacho to Chelsea is imminent, and so do I. It was interesting yesterday, though, because there was a big outburst from the players' camp where they essentially reached out to Fabrizio Romano, which is fair. They're allowed to do that. I'm not going to start a hate campaign against Fabrizio for it. And Garnacho has stated that either Man United sanction his move to Chelsea or he won't play football for 6 to 12 months. My initial gut reaction is not to be like, oh, what a brat, what a horrible man. He's an academy player. I'm not going to cry like that. This is what my reaction would be. Well, get Chelsea to bid the right money. I'd sit Garnacho down in front of me today, and I would say, by the way, I gave the example earlier of if KJ asked for a month off, and I said I would find a cover. Let's flip that. If I said, cool, you give me 6 months notice, which is amazing, but you've got to find me adequate cover. That's my only caveat. I'll give it to you off. In fact, I'll give you 5 weeks off, but you have got to find me cover. They've got to be trained and ready to go the day that you go on holiday. KJ says, boom, I'll do that and I'll go away. We're getting to 2 weeks before KJ, 3 weeks before KJ goes away, and he went, Terry, I haven't been able to find anybody. I'm not going to feel guilty. I would have the same. I'll go, well, you better go and find someone. Find someone, you can go. That was the promise. If not, it's 2 weeks. That's the maximum amount of time we allow off. Company policy. We actually don't have a policy for that, but it's called a hypothetical in case anyone cries their little eyes out. Toaster people bawling at the back. Oh, Terry's so cruel. You're upset about you're upset about a hypothetical story that doesn't exist. That's like when people get angry over jokes. You got angry over a person that don't exist. Weirdo. It's like getting annoyed. Batman killed someone. It's not real. But I bet you those same people love wrestling, don't they? Did you cry when Dot Cotton died? Is that what happened? Big up Dot Cotton. Big up Mrs. C. Anyway, I digress. It's one of these things for me where I'd sit Garnacho down this morning and I would say, we are very happy for you to go, but we want a minimum of, I'm going to give you what I would say, I want a minimum of 40 million base. Go and get Chelsea to do it, or you're right. You're not going to kick a ball for 6 months. January, you might go, or 12 months. He's only on 50K a week. You're not talking about a player that's going to cost us 10 to 12 million a year. Plus, we don't owe money on him to another club. This is a small price to pay to lay the smack down on this dressing room. And I would do it. Now, I wouldn't disrespect him. I wouldn't make him eat lunch in the car. I'd say, look, what you've done all summer is what's going to happen if you're not playing football. We are going to train from 9 a.m. And once the last person leaves, which is normally 2, 3 in the afternoon, then you can arrive and do your training to keep fit. You can use all the facilities. You'll still get free food. Your code will work on the door. But there is no training with us. Equally, if between now and when you leave, if you stay, any information comes out from your camp, any insubordinate tweets, your family start spreading nonsense about the club, every time that happens, you'll find a week's wages. I would say this very conversation, bring a lawyer, by the way, we're NDA in this, so none of this conversation can even come out and go public. I would be absolutely ruthless in that way. Fair, but absolutely ruthless. This is the chance for Man United to show some bollocks. If we roll over and do this deal for 25 million, 30 million, I'm so angry at the club. I'm so angry at the message that sends. By the way, I have no personal issue with Garnacho on a real level. This is business. I've got no personal issue. He ain't what we need anymore. I still think he's a very, very talented player. I think he'll do a fantastic job at Chelsea. But from my point of view, this is a great chance for us to send a message to the other players that you don't get to misbehave and still get what you want. Equally, if you want to leave, your agent needs to go and get us the price we want. We need to assert that. It's a little harder with the Sanchos and the Rashfords because they're on so much money. And with Sancho, we still owe £17 million on him. It's a little different with Rasmus. We still owe £40 million on him. He's only on 85,000 a week. This is why it's also better that we're signing him. All the new players we're signing, none of them are coming in on astronomical wages, which means you have more control over players when it comes to selling them. Which is why I keep telling people the business side is so important to be better on the pitch. Because if we lose these battles off the pitch, you're not going to get a squad that runs through brick walls. Same in any other business in the world. If I let my children, right down to my children get to get away with murder with me, and there's no recourse for them, they'll keep pushing barriers. They'll keep breaking things down. My daughter gave me a dirty look yesterday. She won't be doing that again. My daughter, we have a chokey in my house. It isn't like the chokey in Matilda. It's not full of nails and glass. Right? But it's a little part of the house I make them sit in when they're naughty, like a naughty step. And obviously with my daughter, that's what I have to do. Because even if it was old school and you can't hit your kids anymore, I don't do that anyway. But I couldn't, even if it was normal, because she's a girl, right? But she goes out and she hates it because she can't go in her room. But every time I walk past, she'd look at me and I just give her a look. And she got upset with the look. She said, I don't like when you look at me like that. I said, well, don't disappoint me then. Don't be disrespectful. And you won't get looked at like that. And it works, right? Now she's a kid. You ain't going to treat the players in the same. You're not going to put Garnacho on a naughty step. But there are, as you get older, the naughty steps that exists, whether it's being fined wages in football, whether it's getting a written warning at work, there are still versions of that exist. But if you always let people take the piss and get away with things, and by the way, it isn't even so much that my daughter gave me a dirty look that bothered me. It's, I don't want her doing that to a teacher at school. I don't want her doing that. I say this to my kids, I don't even understand it yet. It's, you don't look at people like that, because one day you might look at the wrong person like that. And I don't know how tough they are yet, right? They're still kids. And you've got to teach them this. You've got to teach them to be street smart. I know we live in a world now where everyone's online saying whatever they want to anybody they want. But that isn't real life. You behave like that in the real world, you're going to get hurt, mate. You're going to get proper hurt. You've got to know. You know, if I'm in a boozer, I don't go there much anymore. And there's a bloke in there who's 6'3", a little bit mean looking, got a reputation. Even if he annoys me, unless I have to, I'm going to give that one a slip, mate. Because I ain't no hard nut. I know I've met my match there. I'm getting pummeled. You learn when not to. If you have to step up, there are times you go, I'm going to have to take a bit of a beating here. That's happened in life. You do it. But you've got to learn how to navigate these things. You've got to learn when and how to do things right. And this is how I want Man United to behave. We've got to make an example out of Garnacho here. We've got to get the money we want, or at least close to the money we want, or call his bluff. You ain't playing, son. That means you ain't going to the World Cup. You know, what's he, 22 now, 23? How old is Garnacho? We're going to go to your calls next, by the way. How old is Garnacho here? I don't even know. He's 21, actually, so he's a bit younger. Well, that'll mean, listen, but the next time the World Cup comes around, he's going to be 24, 25. You know, that's 2 World Cups now that you've had a chance to go to that you haven't. Your choice, son. Your choice. Good night. God bless. Love to the family. That's what I'd say. Just me. Maybe I'm a little bit harsh. I don't know. That's what I would do. Let's go to your Terry, can you please keep Garnacho? His attitude stinks and his recent comments also stink. I've seen Chelsea fans say, I don't want him, his attitude's bad. That's because you don't rate the player. If this was Vinicius Jr. doing this to come to you, you wouldn't care. So again, I don't judge the behavior based on how much I do or don't like a player. I try to look at it equally. I don't actually hate him for what he's doing, even though it's to my club. I get it. I understand it. But we just got to be strong. We've got to be strong. It's like with my kids. When my kids try and push my boundaries, I don't hate them for it. Sometimes they say things that are quite clever, quite good responses. And I go, sometimes I try not to laugh. I'm like, oh, that's pretty clever, actually. But I have to keep my cool. But I know why they're pushing the boundaries, because all people do. People will always push their boundaries with you to see what they can get away with. You just got to give them a dry slap, metaphorically, before anyone clips me up, metaphorically, a bit of a dry slap. My dog's easier to train, though. My dog's just perfect, man. Oh, he's so good. He's so good. He really is. I tested him yesterday. I was eating some food. I was eating it on the sofa. A little table out. And I left it there. And I went out the room. And he looked at me before I left. And he walked nearer to my plate. And I went, no. Says, lay down. He laid down. I went out the room. And I was just watching him from around the corner. And for about 5 minutes, his mouth was just going like this. Because it was his favorite food. It was chicken. It was his favorite food. And he's just there. But he didn't move an inch. Didn't go anywhere near it. Then I came back in. And I was like, such a good boy. So I saved him some, chopped it up and put it in his bowl. He didn't eat it. And well, that's a good dog. Because I know a lot of people, if you've got dogs, if you left your dinner in the dog's there, you left the room for 5 minutes. I know a lot of you are like, yeah, my dog's munching that away. So he's very well trained, my dog. But I can't train the kids in the same way, because would I get in trouble if I put a lead around their neck? Could you reckon I would? Making them sit in a park. Oh, I'd love to do. I wouldn't love to do it. But what I mean by I'd love to do it, I'd love to set it up as a prank. just to see people's reactions, you know what I mean? I love those kind of pranks. They always make me die. Right. it's time to take a few calls this morning. We're going to do this in the next 10 minutes or so. Slightly overrun, but there we go. And Strasbourg Steve is coming on with us first. Strasbourg Steve is here with me. Morning, mate. Long time no see. Yes. Hope you're well. What are you here to say, brother, in your RG shirt?
Yeah, honestly. It's mad comfy, so I just woke up, threw something on. But yeah, big up, man. Hope you're good.
I'm good, my bro.
All right, with the Isak thing, I don't know if I believe that he's never gonna play for us again. I still think he'll leave as of now, but you can't tell me that if we keep him, he's just gonna refuse to play. I highly doubt it. I think this is similar to the Kane situation, maybe a bit more extreme. And there's different little things here and there about it, but honestly, there's no way that he's just gonna not play for us again. Like, what's he gonna do? Just sit the whole time? I think he'll be upset about it for a week or so, and then he'll reintegrate back in within the team, and he'll want to play Champions League. He'll want to play something. Maybe he tries to force something in January, but he's got to keep himself fit for that. So, and if he does, then well, this whole summer is a disaster of our own making. And you know what? You have consequences for this stuff. So if he does, then it's his choice, man. I would rather. Go on.
Now, I was going to ask you, what do you make of the way some of the kind of Newcastle-based press have handled this situation?
I don't really know because they all say different things, right? I don't know who to trust besides Luke. I mean, Luke Edwards clearly is just L after L after L after L. That guy needs to just, report on tennis, rugby, something else, man. This game ain't for you, clearly. The way they report on it, again, I don't trust it because it's all different. So I don't really know what to gauge of it. I think the most reliable one is arguably Downey, but that's just me. I mean, Hope is kind of there too, but at the end of the day, man, I get my transfer news on Twitter when the club posts the official photo. Like, I just saw PSV sign Dennis Mann. I just saw that on PSV's Twitter. So it's like, I know you signed him. So I didn't hear nothing about it until then. So it's one of those, bro, where it's like, I don't really pay attention like that, to be honest, because like I said, everybody's just saying different things. But
yeah, I hear that. I do hear that. It's such an interesting conversation from my perspective in relation to that. Who do you think you're going to bring in as a replacement? Who do you think you'll end up landing?
That is the question. That is, well, I don't like any of the links that we have at striker. I don't like any of them. Højlund, hell no. Nico Jackson, hell no. Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a free, hell no. I don't like any of them. So at this point, I want us to keep Isak because we do not have a sporting director right now. There is no point in selling Isak for, let's say we get the money we want at 150. There's no point in wasting it on Nicholas Jackson and a bunch of other average players with that are overpriced. Ramsdale for me is a terrible signing. Alanga is a decent player, overpay still for me. I think he fits the way we play, but for the talent of the player, I think it's an overpay. We needed to look outside of the Premier League for value, and that unfortunately is what Mitchell brought to the table. Stuff happened, so I would rather just keep Isak at this point. I'd much rather keep Isak because I do not trust us right here, right now, without a sporting director. I fear we're going to waste that, whatever price it is, 120, 130, 150. I would rather just keep him because it's better. Terry, this will be an analogy you like. Yeah. If you're out in the club, it's late, you want a girl, you get into that desperation territory, right? You can make a big mistake. You can make a big mistake sometimes out of desperation. For me, signing Nico Jackson for the price and for his wages, that's a big mistake because I think he's rubbish.
Yeah.
I would rather play Sean Neve up front, who's got $5,000 on wages, than take an expensive risk on freaking Nico Jackson.
No, I hear you on that. Terry Tibbs is here because I don't have too long left. We've got to try and jump through these quite quickly. Terry Tibbs is a Liverpool fan. What do you make of this story today? Obviously, Newcastle fans don't believe he won't reintegrate. Well, some don't, some do. Do you think Liverpool are going to get this done, Terry?
Yeah, big up, mate, by the way. Big up everyone else. Big up to Doc Cotton, absolute baller in the square back in the day. Yeah, I think we will get it done, mate. I think there's a lot of briefs being put out by different journalists. I think nobody really knows what's going on behind the scenes. All we do know is that it's getting ugly between Isak and Newcastle and his agents or whatever. We know that he doesn't want to be there. That's for certain. We know for a fact that he was promised he could go, because not only has Craig Hope reported that, Ornstein's now confirmed that as well via the Athletic, that he told Eddie Howe that he wanted to go. I just think it's a matter of time. I feel sorry for Newcastle fans in a way, in terms of the way he's done it. But comparing it to the Trent situation, I mean, Trent's a Scouser born and bred. He managed the decline of his own contract over a period of 3 years, speaking to Real Madrid, and then left on a free, never gave us no money. Let's not forget, Isak gave them the first trophy in 70 years. He got them back in the Champions League twice, and they're also going to get double the money for him than what they paid for the 60 million for Sociedad.
Sorry, do you not think it's more akin to Coutinho then, who did the exact same thing and you ended up holding out and getting 140 odd million later?
No, I don't think it's the same as Coutinho, no, because the difference in the Coutinho situation compared to the Isak situation is Coutinho threatened to strike. Okay, he striked for what? A couple of days, and then he was sold. I'd akin this more to the Harry Kane situation. There's more similarities there with Kane. Comparing it to any situation within Liverpool players, there's not really one that you can sort of, compare that to. Don't think it's similar to Coutinho. Don't think it's similar to Suarez neither. I feel like Newcastle have played a game here and they've lost the game massively.
How do you know we lost? That's an interesting one, because right now you could say it's an L, but what if Isak bangs in 25 this year and we go on to win an FA Cup and finish 5th? Is that a loss? I'm not talking about you've tried to play a game and you've lost in terms of the Isak staying or going. Okay. I'm talking about what you've done in terms of playing the game is you've tried to make moves in the transfer market to get that cover for Isak, and it hasn't worked. Because we don't have a sporting director. That's a big part of it.
But that's the thing, and that is down to not only PIF but Newcastle's internals as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I push back a little bit on that because Paul Mitchell left like 2 days before the transfer window opened. So how do you expect a club to pull in a decent enough replacement of a sporting director 2 days before a transfer window and then pull everything else off?
Well, because clubs should plan for this in advance. You don't let Paul Mitchell go with 2 days before the transfer window and not have a replacement ready-made there to go. Newcastle knew that he was going to leave. And if you want to talk about Paul Mitchell, he's the exact reason why you're in this situation with Isak, because he looked at the contract situation after he was promised it from Staveley. And he's turned around and said, well, you've still got 4 years left. You're on decent money. Nah, I'm not going to give you that promise that was made. So if you want to talk about Paul Mitchell, he's one of the reasons why you're in this mess.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. How do you see this, Kane, just very quickly before I go to Anton, how do you see this playing out? Do you think that he will reintegrate if you don't sell him, or do you just feel that this deal will get done? What's your gut telling you, Kane?
My gut. Honestly, I feel like we'll begrudgingly keep him, but only on the basis of not having a decent enough replacement. It'll be interesting to see if the Vissa deal comes through, what Liverpool then do. I can see them putting in a better bid. If the bid's around 120, we'll see where Newcastle's at, because if that gets rejected out of hand, then we know then we're sort of back where we are, and it's a lack of replacement, lack of money from Liverpool side. If Newcastle get another striker in and Liverpool try again at 130, then that might make it even more interesting. So I still think we're missing some pieces to really decide. My gut feeling is we'll keep him, but only because we haven't got a decent enough replacement.
Do you agree with my theory, Kane, about why I wouldn't sell him? Because right now at this moment in time, I don't trust that we're going to properly reinvest the money into his replacement and other areas, given we don't have the sporting director. What do you think of that? That's
No,
my
because
Okay.
I think if there's one part of the club I do trust, it's our scouting department. So if our team has found a player that they like, then like if you look at all the players we've gone for, they've all been top tier players, whether naively or ambitiously,
So
however
it's
you
not
want to
really
phrase it.
scouting then if it's top tier, right?
No,
I
I
mean,
mean you still got to identify the talent. Like I still think like
yeah,
if we brought in like a Samu Amarodian, that might
I would
be
take in a
again
heartbeat,
changes.
by the
Yeah,
way.
so it's stuff like that.
Heartbeat.
I think where like the reporting's come out in terms of we've told Isak he's saying is we're still looking at these other players. I think we've made inquiries and we've been given numbers that we just don't feel are value for money. Because again, just because we're in this sort of desperate situation, the club still need to find value in the purchases. Just
Yeah.
because just because we've got Isak who wants to leave doesn't mean we then start spending 80 million on an Amarodian who again has only had one good year, looks a very good talent, but that's a massive risk, and we can't open ourselves to that on that front either.
Yeah.
So
So
you wouldn't take Samu. For me, I'm taking him right
I
away.
would, I would,
Right
but I'm
away.
not spending 80 million on a Samu. I would spend
Okay.
a 50. Like if I think that Aston Villa was quoted at 55, that I would probably say
Yeah.
sure.
I think Porto
But
want to keep him though. Then this,
Yeah.
that's not right though.
ironically,
But
this
there's
is
an
Can
irony.
I ask a question to the Newcastle fans?
Yeah,
Do
go
you
on.
think, just really quickly, do you honestly think that reintegrating Isak now is the best thing for the club, or letting him go because of the noise that he's made and getting in a new striker that wants to play for the club?
I would prefer to get rid of him, but at the same time, I'm in the same way that Terry was talking about Garnacho. Just because I want rid of Isak doesn't mean I'm accepting 110 million from Liverpool. And Liverpool still needs to put a decent enough bid up for me to even consider it. And again, 110, 120 is not enough.
Yeah.
I hear that. Anton, obviously you're an Arsenal fan. I wanted to ask you. So it's just been said by Sammy McBell that Trossard is set to leave.
Is that breaking news?
I'm just going by aggregate. I haven't read the news yet, but they said Sammy McBell said he's set to leave. Ed Aarons has now said that Arsenal will be leading the race for Eze this summer, but are yet to send an offer, talking about how Arsenal identify him as the player they need against deep defenses. But we now know Spurs are back in. How do you see this one playing out in the next couple of days? Because it's also now been reported that the release clause hasn't expired yet. It's actually this Friday it expires. So everyone thought it was a few weeks ago. How do you see this one playing out, Anton?
Right. So I've thought about this for the last couple hours. To be honest, this is going to be the biggest test of Andrea Berta so far in this window, because up to this point, he has had everything kind of laid out for him perfectly. The players have made it very clear that they only want to go to Arsenal. All of the competition has sort of kind of moved away. And whether he's wanting to wait for the sales or not, he has to make this deal happen. Firstly, because I think this is the main player that Arsenal want. They're not going to just sit idly by and allow Tottenham then at this point to take him. I reckon now, you're now telling me that Trossard news is dropping. I don't think that's coincidental. I think Arsenal's going to have to be sprung into action. And I think this is very similar to this, now that they have Newcastle fans in the group here as well. What happened with Benjamin Sesko and Manchester United. So Newcastle made that move early, and I feel like Man United took a couple of days then to sort of get their ducks in a row, and then kind of made sure that they got the player buy-in, and then they made their move because they knew that that was the player's preferred destination. Ultimately, my gut still tells me that's what is going on right now with Eze. I think that, I hope. Oh my God, I got to tell you, seeing Rodrigo being linked with City yesterday and Eze today with Spurs on back-to-back days is not easy to see for Arsenal. But it's kind of like you kind of have to get your, your nerves kind of put in check and be like, you know what, this is what it's about. Because this is kind of now, instead of us waiting, we're to see what the club is actually going to do. And I think that this deal is going to happen. I think he's going to go to Arsenal. What do you think, Terry?
Listen, I think if Arsenal go in and make a move, I think you'll get it done because there's a reason Spurs pulled out weeks ago. I get why they've come back in. Gibbs White didn't happen. Maddison's got injured. You guys haven't made your move, so I totally get why you're going back in. And I know that Spurs fans will just say I'm glazing Arsenal here, but if both go in, if both make the right offer, I just don't see him. I don't see why he picks Tottenham over Arsenal because of where you are, where they are. That being said, I'm excited about this race. It isn't just two big teams. It's two bitter, fierce rivals that hate each other, fighting out for a player. So listen, it's going to be an amazing one.
Look, I'm confident as long as Arsenal go and make the move, because my fear is that Arsenal just sit idly by and just let Tottenham go and take the player.
Yeah,
which
that
would be the
agree.
worst case scenario. So
I totally agree. Look, I'm sorry to cut everybody short. We are at the end of the show. This is going to redirect you to the United stand. Mark and I are back here though at about 10:45, 10:50 for hot takes. We've got some brilliant clips, some brilliant stories to go through on the show. So go check out Mark now. We'll be back here in about half an hour, 45 minutes. I want to thank the panel that's joined us today, the super chatters, everyone who's watched and liked the videos. It means a great deal to us that you're here.
Thank you.
Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all again soon. Peace.
See you soon. Bye.